Hi everyone, today I'm happy to review 3 crash course psychology about cognition, language, and motivation. They are episode 15 to 17. These topics show us some of the most fascinating aspects of our human mind, how we think, how we communicate, and what drives us to take action. They reveal that our minds can work in analyzing ways, but also sometimes need us astray. Let's begin with cognition. Episode 15 is talking about how our brain processes information, solve problems, and make decisions. We may often think of it as a very logical, step-by-step process, but the truth is that is the computer way. It's not our human way. It's more like a mix of the logical creativity and some shortcuts, unfortunately. For example, when we think of a category like a bird, we usually picture the most typical example we know, maybe a robin or a sparrow, rather than something unusual like a penguin. These mental shortcuts help us think quickly, but they can also oversimplify reality and lead to some stereotypes. Okay, maybe that is a source of stereotypes because our brain will oversimplify things. When solving some problems, like sometimes we use the algorithms, slow step-by-step methods that always give the relatively right answer, right, if we follow them correctly. Other times we rely on our heuristics, which are quick, and there are some like the mental shortcuts can help most of the time, but can also sometimes just cause mistakes. So one common error is confirmation bias. Maybe you heard about it already, where we search for information that supports what we already believe and ignore anything that challenges it. Yeah, this is, I think, a very common phenomenon on social media when people post something like an inquiry. However, they are just searching for like the answers fit their expectations. We also tend to fall into some mental sets, which means we keep using the same method to solve the problems many times. Even we know there is a better solution, but we tend to use the familiar one. So then there is framing, like this is a terminology about how the information is presented to us. Like saying, okay, if imagine in a hospital scenario, a doctor might say a treatment has 80% success rate or a 20% failure rate. These are exactly the same numbers, right? But people often react very differently depending on which version they hear. All of these examples show that while our thinking is powerful, it's also influenced by other factors, like these subtle factors that can lead us to make different decisions than we might expect. The number 16 episode is about language, which I'm very interested in. It is, we may think language is the tool and we can use to share ideas, express ourselves, and understand the world around us. And it shapes how we perceive reality. It's built from some small units, like the sounds, like the meaningful pieces, or like the grammar. And I feel grammar is like something can allow us to combine all the smaller pieces of the units into sentences that make sense. And it talks about how children pick up language. Basically, they usually develop the language skill very naturally, moving from the understanding words to producing them. Around 4 months, a baby is begin babbling. Soon they enter the one-word stage, saying things like milk or dog, and then they move two-word combinations such as I want a toy, I want food. These early steps are short and simple, but they are the building blocks for more complex speech later. Psychologists have different views on how we learn language. For example, psychologist Skiller, he believed that it's learned through the imitation and the reinforcement. We copy what we hear and we get rewarded when we get it right. However, another psychologist, Chomsky, on the other hand, argued that humans are born with an instinctive ability to learn grammar, a kind of built-in language readiness. But who knows? So language also depends on specific areas of the brain, and I know that some part of the brain is in charge of speaking, while the other part is crucial for understanding. If either of these areas is damaged, a person can develop aphasia, a condition that affects speech, comprehension, or both. Language, in short, to me, is not just about words. It's deeply tied to how we think, understand, and connect with others. And the next episode is about motivation. Motivation is what drives us to do things, right? From simple daily tasks to extraordinary acts. This episode begins with the dramatic story of a hiker, a man trapped by a boulder who made a life or death decision to free himself. So his determination came from powerful needs and goals, showing how motivation can push people to overcome incredible challenges. Psychologists want to explain this motivation in several ways. An evolutionary perspective sees some behaviors as instinctive, shaped by survival needs. And the drive reduction theory suggests that we act to meet basic biological needs, like eating, drinking. When we are hungry, we tend to restore balance in our bodies. Optimal arousal theory says we aim for just the right amount of stimulation, not too bored, not too stressed. And the Maslow, famous Maslow's hierarchy of needs offers another view, starting with the essentials like food and safety, the more physical thing, moving up to love and belonging, more spiritual thing, then your the self-esteem, and finally the self-actualization, where we try to reach our fullest potential. I love it, so beautiful. Motivation is also shaped by personal desires and cultural influences, whether it's a need to belong, to achieve, or to avoid being left out. It's a powerful force that shapes both our everyday choices and our life goals, both short-term and long-term. So together, these 3 episodes gave me a clear picture of the mind. How beautiful they are. Cognition reminds me that our thinking is both amazing and imperfect. Language shows me how we build meaning and share our inner worlds with others. Motivation reveals the hidden forces that push us to act even in the face of obstacles. By understanding how these processes work, we become more aware of how we interpret the situations, how we make decisions, and how we connect with the people around us, or connect with the people, just in the world, because now it's internet, just to bring everything can happen, and without the limitation of the geographical distances. So with all these awarenesses, we can think more clearly, communicate more effectively, and act with more purpose. I feel that is like the time we become maybe more self-thinking, which means like we can ask ourselves a lot of things, and also we observe so many people, so much information, because from the social media, from all these sorts of like the things coming from the short video, all this kind of the internet products, or even today some like AI products. It's like totally fake, but they are still a representation of like people's needs to some degree. So I'm very happy to keep going and learning the CrashCourse psychology. I feel that it helps me to think a lot, and I hope that it helps you as well. And thank you for listening, and see you next time. Goodbye.